The snow fell softly against the windows of my penthouse, 23rd floor, Queen Anne Hill. Seattle sprawled below, the Space Needle glowing in the distance, Elliott Bay dark beyond it. Christmas Eve, and I'd spent the afternoon preparing dinner the way Miriam used to prime rib, roasted vegetables, her grandmother's Yorkshire pudding recipe. 5 years since she'd died. 5 years of cooking these meals alone, hoping each year my son would remember what family meant. Percy was supposed to arrive at 6. By 7:15, the prime rib had rested too long, and the Yorkshire puddings had deflated. When the knock finally came, I opened the door to find Percy scrolling through his phone, Serafina beside him examining her manicured nails. "Traffic," Percy muttered, not looking up. "No hug. No Merry Christmas, Dad." Serafina brushed past me, her perfume something expensive and overwhelming filling my entryway. "God, Dad, do you always keep it this hot? I'm literally sweating." It was 70 degrees. Same as always, she was already photographing my living room with her phone, the exposed brick walls, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the vintage leather furniture Miriam and I had collected over 30 years. "Content," she explained when she caught me watching. "My followers love authentic spaces." I closed the door slowly. "Dinner's ready. I just need to warm everything up." Percy dropped onto the sofa without offering to help, his attention fixed on some cryptocurrency chart on his phone. Numbers flashing red, Serafina wandered to the windows, studying the view. "You know what this space needs? A complete redesign. That brick is so and this furniture," she wrinkled her nose. "When was the last time you updated anything?" "Most of it was your grandmother's," I said quietly. "Exactly," she turned smiling. "Ancient." At the table, Percy filled his wineglass to the brim. Expensive Bordeaux. I'd been saving and drained half of it before I'd even served the meat. "So, Thaddeus," Serafina said, cutting into her prime rib without waiting for grace. Miriam had always insisted on grace. "We need to discuss your living situation." My fork paused halfway to my mouth. "My what?" Percy set down his wineglass with a heavy thud. "Dad, let's be real. This place is too much for you. 5,000 square feet? You're rattling around in here like a ghost." "I manage perfectly fine." "Do you?" Serafina's voice carried that practiced sympathy people use with children. She pulled a glossy brochure from her designer bag, slid it across the table. "Evergreen Estates. Premier Senior Living. They have everything: medical staff, activities, a community of people your own age." I picked up the brochure. Smiling elderly faces in a garden. 24-hour care. Memory support available. "I don't need memory support." "Not yet," Percy said. "But Dad, you're 68. Things decline. Mom's death, that took a toll. We've noticed you forgetting things, repeating yourself." That was a lie. My mind was sharp as ever. 40 years as a patent attorney had kept my mental processes precise, analytical, uncompromising. "I haven't forgotten anything," I said evenly. Serafina touched my hand, her rings cold against my skin. "Denial is common. That's why we're here, to help you make the right choice before it's too late." Percy leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Sunday, 4 days. We're moving in here. The penthouse is wasted on one person, especially when," he gestured vaguely, "when you might not be here much longer anyway." The words hung in the air like poison. "I made copies of your keys last month," Serafina added casually, pulling a key ring from her purse and dangling it. "When you asked me to grab your mail while you were at that medical appointment. So thoughtful of you to trust me." She'd stolen my keys, copied them, planned this. "Evergreen Estates has an opening," Percy continued. "We already put down the deposit, 5,000 a month. Very reasonable." 5,000, I repeated. "For what kind of accommodation?" "Shared room," Serafina said brightly. "But you'll make friends. And really, at your age, how much space do you need?" They wanted me in a shared room in a budget facility. while they took my $2.8 million penthouse, the one Miriam and I had designed together, chosen together, furnished with pieces from our travels, Paris, Tokyo, Barcelona. 4 days, Percy said firmly. The movers are booked for 10 a.m. Sunday. Just pack your personal items. We'll handle everything else. I looked at my son, really looked at him. The way he avoided my eyes, the rehearsed quality of his words, the absolute certainty that I would comply. This wasn't sudden. They'd planned this, discussed it, plotted it, waited for Christmas Eve when I'd be emotional, vulnerable, surrounded by memories of Miriam. I see, I said quietly. Serafina smiled, victorious. I knew you'd understand, Thad. You're such a reasonable man. They left before 8:30, Percy already on his phone, scheduling something, Serafina pausing in the doorway. Oh, and Thad, I'm going to need you to sign some paperwork. Power of attorney, just in case. Medical decisions, financial decisions, standard stuff. I'll bring it Sunday. The door closed behind them. I stood in my living room, Miriam's Chagall print above the fireplace, the grand piano she'd played every evening, the rooftop terrace where we'd watched sunsets for decades, and felt rage crystallize into something harder, colder. They thought I was a weak old man, a relic to be managed, manipulated, discarded. They were wrong. I walked to my study and pulled out my laptop. The screen glowed in the darkness as I began typing, methodical, precise. I had 4 days to dismantle whatever scheme they'd constructed, and I knew exactly where to start. Christmas morning arrived, gray and wet, rain replacing the previous night's snow. I'd been awake since 4, reviewing documents, making calls, planning. My first call went to Barnaby Whitmore, my oldest friend and a real estate attorney who'd handled my property acquisitions for 30 years. Merry Christmas, Thad. This better be good to interrupt my morning coffee. Percy is trying to take the penthouse. He says he has keys, claims I'm declining mentally, wants to move me into budget senior living while he and his wife take possession. I need you in your office tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Silence. Then the penthouse you and Miriam bought, the one in your name alone. Jesus Christ, Thad. Your own son? Can you help me or not? I'll be there at 8. Bring every document related to the property, deed, purchase agreement, everything. And Thad, his voice hardened, we're going to bury him. My second call went to a number I'd looked up an hour early. A woman answered on the second ring, her voice alert, despite the early hour. Chen Investigations. Miss Chen, my name is Thaddeus Beaumont. I need to hire you immediately for family-related surveillance and background investigation. Are you available for consultation today? Christmas Day. I'll pay triple your normal rate. This is urgent. Brief pause. Give me your address. I'll be there in 2 hours. Octavia Chen arrived at exactly 10 a.m., carrying a leather portfolio and a tablet. She was 40-something, sharp-eyed, dressed in dark jeans and a blazer that probably concealed a weapon. Former FBI, she said, reading my expression. Financial Crimes Division. Now I work for people who need answers quickly and quietly. I led her to my study, spread documents across my desk. My son Percy and his wife Serafina announced last night they're moving into my penthouse in 4 days. They've already made keys, put a deposit on senior living for me, and plan to force me out. I need to know everything about them. Finances, business dealings, criminal history, anything that explains this urgency. Octavia made notes on her tablet. You're a patent attorney, retired, 40 years of practice. I know manipulation when I see it. And this isn't just greed. This is desperation. Tell me about your son's financial situation. I pulled up Percy's LinkedIn profile on my laptop. He's launched 4 startups in the past 6 years. All failed. The last one was cryptocurrency related, some kind of trading platform. Closed 8 months ago. Octavia's eyebrows rose slightly. Cryptocurrency? That's interesting. Mind if I dig into that? Dig into everything. She worked for 90 minutes, her fingers flying across her tablet, pulling up databases I'd never heard of. Finally, she looked up, her expression grim. Your son is in serious trouble, Mr. Beaumont. 3 months ago, the SEC opened an investigation into his crypto platform. They're alleging it was a Ponzi scheme using new investor money to pay returns to earlier investors. Total losses estimated at $4.7 million. My chest tightened. He defrauded investors? Allegedly. The investigation is ongoing, but the evidence looks bad. He's facing potential criminal charges, wire fraud, securities fraud. If convicted, he's looking at 10 to 20 years in federal prison. And the wife, Serafina? Octavia's smile was thin and sharp. That's where it gets interesting. Serafina Chase, maiden name. She married Percy 3 years ago, correct? Correct. She was married before that to a man named Marcus Delacroix in California. I can't find a divorce decree. If this story reminded you of the injustices you've seen, follow the channel and turn on notifications. Because wherever justice is delayed, a new revenge story begins. The words hung in the air. You're saying she's still married? I'm saying I can't find evidence she's not. If she married your son while still legally married to Delacroix, that's bigamy, a felony in Washington state. I leaned back in my chair, mind racing. So Percy is facing federal fraud charges, and Serafina is a bigamist, potential. I need more time to confirm the bigamy, but the SEC investigation is documented. She pulled up a file on her tablet. Court filings, witness statements, financial records. It's all public. They just haven't released his name to the media yet. How much time before charges are filed? Could be weeks, could be months. But when it comes, it'll be fast and brutal. They'll freeze his assets, seize property, and arrest him. She paused. Your penthouse isn't in his name, is it? No, my name only. Miriam and I bought it outright in 1998. No mortgage, no co-owners. Then they can't touch it legally. But if he's facing prison and massive fines, he's desperate for assets he can liquidate. Your penthouse is worth, what, $2.8 million? Approximately. That would pay off some of his legal bills, and maybe his restitution if he cuts a deal. But he'd need you out of the way, legally incompetent or dead. The bluntness of it struck me. You think he'd... I think desperate people do desperate things, Mr. Beaumont, and your son is very, very desperate. After Octavia left, promising a full report by tomorrow evening, I stood at my windows watching rain streak the glass. The city below was quiet. Christmas Day, families together in warm homes. My son was a criminal. My daughter-in-law was possibly a bigamist, and they wanted to steal my home, the last piece of Miriam I had left. I thought of the power of attorney paperwork Serafina mentioned. If I'd signed it, they could have hospitalized me, claimed incompetence, sold the penthouse while I was locked in some facility, fighting to prove my own sanity. Not with me, not ever. I pulled out my phone and called Barnaby again. Tomorrow at 9, but I need something else. A new will drafted immediately. My current will leaves everything to Percy. That needs to change. Consider it done. I'll have something ready by tomorrow afternoon. My third call went to my bank. This is Thaddeus Beaumont. I need to change all account passwords and add additional security measures. No one but me should have any access, even with power of attorney. The bank officer was efficient, professional. Within an hour, every financial account I had was locked down. New passwords, new security questions, biometric authentication added. Then I went through my penthouse systematically. Every document related to the property went into a fireproof safe. My passport, birth certificate, social security card, everything that could be used for identity theft, secured. Finally, I called a locksmith. I need all locks changed tomorrow morning, first thing, and I need security cameras installed at the entrance. Day after Christmas is premium rate, sir. I don't care about the cost. Can you do it? I'll have a crew there at 7 a.m. I hung up and walked to Miriam's piano, ran my fingers across the keys without pressing them. She'd played Chopin here, filled this space with music that made the walls seem to expand. They're not taking this from us. I said aloud to her memory. I promise you that. The rain continued through the night. I didn't sleep. I planned. A Thursday morning, December 26th, the locksmith arrived at exactly 7. By 9 a.m., every lock in my penthouse had been replaced. Commercial-grade deadbolts, biometric entry on the main door, cameras at every entrance with cloud recording. The keys they copied, the locksmith held up the old cylinder. Useless now. These new locks can't be picked, can't be bumped. You're Fort Knox, Mr. Beaumont. At 9:15, I sat in Barnaby's office reviewing the legal documents he'd prepared. Cease and desist letter, restraining order petition, new will, power of attorney revocation. This is comprehensive, Thad, but it's also nuclear. Once you serve these papers, there's no going back. Your relationship with Percy is finished. It finished last night at dinner. I'm just making it official. Barnaby slid the papers across his desk. The cease and desist is self-explanatory. They are to have no contact with you or your property. The restraining order petition will require a hearing, probably next week. The new will leaves everything to charity, with a small provision for Percy, if and only if he completes 5 years of therapy and demonstrates complete financial rehabilitation, and the power of attorney revocation, immediate and absolute. They can't make any medical or financial decisions for you, period. I signed everything, my handwriting steady. What about the key theft? Serafina admitted she copied my keys without permission. That's illegal but hard to prosecute. However, Barnaby leaned forward. If they use those keys to enter your property, that's criminal trespass. And if they try to force you out or claim ownership, that's attempted theft through fraud. I want them charged if they try. Then we'll be ready. Barnaby made 3 calls while I sat there. First to the Seattle Police Department, filing a preemptive report about the key theft and potential trespass. Second to a process server, arranging immediate service of the cease and desist. Third to the courthouse, filing the restraining order petition. The hearing is set for Monday at 2. You'll need to testify. Can you do that? I testified in patent disputes for 40 years. I can handle this. That evening, Octavia Chen returned with a thick folder. Full report. Your daughter-in-law is definitely still married to Marcus Delacroix. I found him. He's a hedge fund manager in San Diego. I called him, told him I was confirming marital status for a background check. He confirmed they're still legally married, separated but never divorced. He seemed surprised to hear she'd remarried. So it's bigamy. Absolutely. I've documented everything, but there's more. She pulled out printed emails. I accessed some public records that showed Serafina's been running credit cards in your name. My blood went cold. What? 3 cards, opened 6 months ago using your social security number and your address. Total balance, $47,000. She's been making minimum payments from one of Percy's accounts, keeping it under the radar. But Mr. Beaumont, this is identity theft, felony level. I stared at the documents. My name, my credit, used without my knowledge. How is this possible? She had access to your personal information, probably found your social security card during one of her visits. This is sophisticated fraud. Can we prove she did it? The cards are being sent to a P.O. box she rents. The IP address for the online applications traces back to her laptop. Yes, we can prove it. I stood, walked to my window. The city lights blurred slightly. Age, anger, exhaustion, all of it catching up at once. Mr. Beaumont, Octavia said quietly, you need to report this immediately. Identity theft destroys credit, can take years to unwind, and if you wait, it gets harder to prove you weren't complicit. File a police report tomorrow, I said. Everything, the bigamy, the identity theft, all of it. You understand this will likely result in criminal charges against both of them? I understand perfectly. After she left, I sat alone in my study. Tomorrow was Friday. On Sunday, Percy and Serafina expected to arrive with their moving truck, walk into my home with stolen keys, and take possession of everything Miriam and I had built. Instead, they'd find new locks, security cameras, and legal papers that would destroy their lives. Part of me, the father part that remembered teaching Percy to ride a bike, helping him with homework, watching him graduate, felt something like grief. But the rest of me remembered Miriam's piano, her Chagall print, her grandmother's recipe for Yorkshire pudding, and the 40 years we'd spent building this life together. They weren't taking it, not without a fight. I pulled up my email and composed a message to Percy. Sunday's plans have changed. Do not come to the penthouse. Do not attempt entry. You will find the locks changed and police notified. Legal papers are being served tomorrow. We're done. My finger hovered over the send button, then I deleted it. Better to let them come. Let them try their keys. Let them face the reality of their failure in person, with cameras recording every moment. Sunday morning would be instructive. I allowed myself a cold, thin smile in the darkness of my study. 4 days, they'd said. I'd given them 3 to prepare for war. Now the war was here. Friday morning, the process server delivered the cease and desist letters to Percy's apartment in Belltown. I watched the tracking update on my phone, served to Percival Beaumont at 10:47 a.m. My phone rang 4 minutes later, Percy's name on the screen. I let it ring, then ring again. 5 calls in 10 minutes. Finally a text, "Dad, what the hell is this? Call me now." I didn't respond. Saturday passed in tense silence. I spent the day organizing my study, reviewing the security camera feeds, ensuring everything was documented and ready. That evening, another text from Percy. "Tomorrow morning, we're coming to talk. This is ridiculous. We're family." I typed back slowly, deliberately. "The locks are changed. You have no keys that work. Do not attempt entry. This is your only warning." His response was immediate. "You can't do this. That's our home. We have rights." I blocked his number. Sunday morning arrived cold and clear. I woke at 5, made coffee, positioned myself in my study where I could watch the security camera feeds on my laptop. At 9:40, the elevator doors opened on my floor. Percy emerged first, Serafina behind him, both carrying boxes. No moving truck, but they'd clearly expected to move in, start transferring their belongings. Percy looked haggard, unshaven, wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. Serafina was dressed in designer athleisure, her phone already out, recording. "Content," she said to Percy. "This is going to make an incredible story. Elderly father refuses to accept help." They reached my door. Percy pulled out his copied key, slid it into the lock. It didn't turn. Confusion flickered across his face. He tried again, jiggling it, forcing it. The deadbolt didn't budge. "He changed the locks," Serafina said, her voice rising. "He actually changed the locks." Percy pounded on the door. Dad, open up. This is insane." I opened the door 6 inches. The chain lock held firm. "What are you doing here?" My voice was calm, level. "What am I?" Percy's face reddened. "We had an agreement. You announced your plans. I never agreed to anything." Serafina pushed forward, her phone recording everything. "Dad, you're not thinking clearly. We're trying to help you. This is elder abuse. Self-directed elder abuse." I held up my phone, showing them the live security feed. "I'm recording this. Every word. You were served cease and desist papers Friday. You're violating that order by being here. What would you do at this point? Write it in the comments. Your thoughts are as important as the story itself." Percy's voice cracked. "You're my father. This is my inheritance. You can't just cut me off." "I can." "I did. You'll receive formal notice of the will change next week." "This is because of her." Percy pointed at someone off camera. "I couldn't see who. She poisoned your mind against us." "No one poisoned anything. You did this yourselves." Serafina's mask slipped, her voice turning sharp, ugly. "You selfish old man. You're sitting in a $3 million penthouse while your own son drowns in debt. What kind of father does that? The kind who worked 40 years to buy this home, the kind whose son committed securities fraud and whose daughter-in-law committed identity theft in my name. Silence. Absolute silence. Percy's face went white. How did you? I know everything. The SEC investigation. The Ponzi scheme. The $4.7 million you stole from investors. Serafina's marriage to Marcus Delacroix. The credit cards she opened in my name. I pulled out a manila envelope, slid it through the gap in the door. Police reports, all filed. You're both under investigation. Federal charges for Percy, state felonies for Serafina. Serafina grabbed the envelope, her hand shaking as she pulled out the papers. Her face went from red to gray as she read. This is entrapment, she whispered. You set us up. I documented your crimes. There's a difference. Percy slumped against the wall, his bravado completely gone. Dad, please, I'll go to prison. They're going to send me to prison. You committed crimes. Prison is where criminals go. I'm your son. His voice broke. Actual tears now. Don't you care about that at all? I looked at him. Really looked at the man who'd sat at my table 3 nights ago and casually discussed stealing my home. I cared. Past tense. You ended that when you tried to take everything your mother and I built. I started to close the door. Leave now, or I call the police for trespass. Wait! Serafina grabbed the door frame. We can fix this. We'll leave you alone. We'll pay back the credit cards. It's too late for that. Way too late. I closed the door. The deadbolt clicked home with satisfying finality. Through the camera feed, I watched them stand in the hallway for 5 minutes. Percy crying, actually sobbing, his back against the wall. Serafina on her phone, frantic, probably calling lawyers. Finally they left. The elevator doors closed behind them, and they were gone. I sat in my study, hands shaking now that the confrontation was over. The adrenaline draining away left me feeling older than my 68 years, but I'd won. The first battle at least. My phone rang. Barnaby, I just got a call from a public defender's office. Percy's been arrested. The SEC moved faster than expected. Federal agents picked him up an hour ago. And Serafina, Seattle PD is bringing her in for questioning on the identity theft and bigamy. She'll probably be arrested by tonight. I closed my eyes. My son was in federal custody. His wife was being arrested. Everything was crumbling exactly as I'd planned. Thad, you still there? I'm here. This is what you wanted, right? Justice? Yes. But saying it didn't make the hollow feeling in my chest go away. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for Monday at 2 p.m. I arrived at the courthouse at 1:30, dressed in the same gray suit I'd worn to patent litigation hearings for 4 decades. Barnaby met me in the lobby, his expression grim. Percy's being held without bail, flight risk, due to the SEC charges. Serafina made bail this morning, but she's been ordered to surrender her passport. Will they be at the hearing? Percy can't attend. He's in federal custody. Serafina's attorney filed a motion to continue, but the judge denied it. We're moving forward. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Fluorescent lights, harsh against wood paneling that had seen better days. I sat at the petitioner's table, Barnaby beside me, organizing documents with the methodical precision that had made him Seattle's best real estate attorney. At exactly 2 p.m., the judge entered. Honorable Patricia Ochoa, mid-50s, reading glasses, perched on her nose, a reputation for no-nonsense rulings that cut through emotional manipulation like a scalpel. Case number 2024, RO 8847, Beaumont versus Beaumont and Chase. Mr. Whitmore, proceed. Barnaby stood, addressing the court with calm authority. Your Honor, Thaddeus Beaumont seeks a restraining order against his son Percival Beaumont and daughter-in-law, Serafina Chase, based on threats, attempted property theft, identity theft, and credible fear of harm. He presented the evidence systematically. The Christmas Eve recording, I'd been wearing a small recorder Octavia had provided. Percy's voice clear. This place is too much for you. Serafina's admission about copying keys, their plan to force me into budget senior living. Judge Ochoa listened without interruption, making occasional notes. Then Barnaby introduced the identity theft documents. Miss Chase opened 3 credit cards in Mr. Beaumont's name without his knowledge or consent, accumulating $47,000 in fraudulent charges. Seattle PD has arrested her on felony identity theft charges. The judge's eyebrows rose slightly. Has Miss Chase been formally charged? Arraignment is scheduled for Wednesday, Your Honor, and the son's status. Federal custody charges for securities fraud related to a cryptocurrency Ponzi scheme. Estimated losses of $4.7 million. Judge Ochoa set down her pen, removed her glasses, and looked directly at me. Mr. Beaumont, these are serious allegations against your own son and his wife. Are you certain you want to proceed with this order? I stood. Yes, Your Honor. They attempted to steal my home, committed felonies using my identity, and would have succeeded if I hadn't discovered their plan in time. I'm 68 years old, but I'm not senile, not incompetent, and not willing to be victimized by anyone, including my own family. She studied me for a long moment. Mr. Beaumont, I've been a judge for 19 years. I've seen a lot of family disputes. This one, she shook her head. This one is particularly egregious. She signed the order, the pen scratching across paper with finality. Restraining order granted. 100-yard minimum distance. No contact, direct or indirect. Violation will result in immediate arrest. She looked up. And Mr. Beaumont, I'm also ordering that your son and his wife are prohibited from any claims against your property, now or in the future. This order is permanent unless modified by this court. Thank you, Your Honor. As I left the courthouse, Barnaby walking beside me, I felt no triumph, just exhaustion and a strange, hollow sense of completion. The will is finalized, Barnaby said as we reached the street. Everything goes to the Miriam Beaumont Foundation for Patent Law Education. Percy gets nothing unless he completes the requirements. 5 years of therapy, financial rehabilitation, and a formal written apology acknowledging his actions. He'll never do it, probably not, but you gave him the chance. That's more than most fathers would do. I went home to my penthouse, walked through rooms that suddenly felt too large, too empty. Miriam's piano sat silent. Her Chagall print watched from the wall, the lovers floating in that impossible blue sky she'd loved so much. I protected it, I said to her memory, just like I promised, but the victory felt hollow. Beverly. 3 weeks passed in strange quiet. The media picked up Percy's case, local entrepreneur, arrested in 4.7 milligander crypto fraud, but my name stayed out of it. Barnaby had worked some legal magic to seal family court records, protecting my privacy. Serafina's bigamy case moved slower. Marcus Delacroix, her legal husband, had been contacted by investigators and confirmed they'd never divorced. He seemed more bemused than angry. She always was a hustler, he told reporters. I'm just glad I got out when I did. I kept to my routines, morning walks around Queen Anne, coffee at the corner cafe, weekly review of my investments, everything precisely ordered, exactly as I'd lived for the past 5 years since Miriam died. But something had changed. The silence felt different now, not peaceful, but oppressive. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, an envelope arrived via certified mail. I signed for it, carried it to my study, opened it with the letter opener Miriam had given me for our 20th anniversary. Inside, a handwritten letter on yellow legal pad paper, Percy's handwriting messy but legible. Dad, I'm writing this from FDC SeaTac, federal detention. They have me in protective custody because of my high-profile case. That's what they call it, high profile. Like I'm some kind of celebrity criminal. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, about Mom, about you, about how completely I destroyed everything. You were right about Sarah. I knew she was trouble. I knew she was using me, but I was drowning in debt, and she promised she could fix it. She had these connections, these ideas. The crypto platform was her idea. She knew people who'd invest. It seemed so easy. I'm not making excuses. I made the choices. I committed the fraud. I stole from people who trusted me, and then I tried to steal from you. That night at Christmas Eve dinner, when we told you about taking the penthouse, I wanted to back out. I almost did. But Sarah said if we didn't, we'd both end up in prison, and I was too scared to say no. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that Mom would be ashamed of me. I'm ashamed of. My lawyer says I'm looking at 12 to 15 years. If convicted, probably more. The SEC has everything. Bank records, emails, witness testimony. I'm going to plead guilty. Try to get a reduced sentence. Maybe because in here, with nothing but time, I finally understand what I lost. Not the penthouse, not the money. I lost my father. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I'm sorry. Percy, I read the letter 3 times. Each time, my emotions shifted. Anger, grief, something that might have been pity. Finally, I folded it carefully, placed it in a drawer, and locked it away. Sorry wasn't enough. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was something. Subscribe and stay tuned so you don't miss any true revenge story. Sometimes, even silence is the strongest form of revenge. March brought unexpected developments. Octavia Chen called on a Tuesday morning, her voice excited in a way I'd never heard before. Mr. Beaumont, I've been tracking Serafina's activity. She violated her bail conditions. Tried to access one of your credit cards from a coffee shop in Portland. I have footage, IP logs, everything. Portland, she's supposed to stay in King County. Exactly. I've already notified her bail bondsman and the prosecutor. There's a warrant out for her arrest as of this morning. She was caught by Oregon State Police that evening, attempting to board a Greyhound bus to California. When they searched her belongings, they found a fake passport and the name Sarah Chandler, and $28,000 in cash, withdrawn from the fraudulent credit card she'd opened in my name. Additional charges were filed: bail violation, identity theft, new counts, possession of fraudulent identification, attempted flight. Her bail was revoked. She joined Percy in custody, though in county jail rather than federal detention. Barnaby called with update. The prosecutor wants to know if you'd be willing to testify at her trial. They're building a case for organized fraud. Apparently, Serafina's done this before. You're not her first victim. I'll testify. It'll be public. Your name, your financial information, everything. I don't care. She needs to face consequences. The trial was set for June. April 15th, tax day. I sat in my accountant's office, reviewing returns when she mentioned something unusual. Miss Beaumont, there's an unclaimed dependent on last year's return. Percival Beaumont claimed you as a dependent, said you were mentally incapacitated and he was your caregiver. My blood went cold. He did what? It's fraud. He got a $15,000 tax credit by claiming you. I've already filed an amended return and reported it to the IRS, but you should know this is federal tax fraud on top of everything else. How did I not know about this? He filed it late last year, probably hoping you wouldn't check. Most people don't review someone else's returns. I called Octavia immediately. Percy committed tax fraud, claimed me as a dependent, got $15,000 in credits. That's a separate federal offense. I'll document it and send it to the prosecutors. Mr. Beaumont, your son is looking at 20+ years now. Between the SEC charges, the tax fraud, and his cooperation with Serafina's schemes, good. The word came out harder than I intended, but I meant it. Every layer of deception they'd peeled back revealed more crimes, more betrayals. They hadn't just tried to steal my home, they'd tried to steal my identity, my competence, my life. May brought an unexpected visitor. I was having morning coffee on my rooftop terrace when the concierge called up. Mr. Beaumont, there's a woman here to see you. Says she's Elspeth Granger from 21B, my neighbor retired nurse. kept to herself, always pleasant in the elevator. Send her up. Elspeth arrived carrying a small box, her expression concerned. Thaddeus, I hope I'm not intruding, but I found something I thought you should see. She opened the box. Inside, a small camera, no bigger than a button. I found this in the hallway outside your door. It was hidden in the decorative molding, pointed right at your entrance. I only noticed it because I dropped my keys and was crawling around looking for them. I took the camera, examined it. Professional grade, wireless, still warm. How long has it been there? I don't know, but Thaddeus, someone's been watching you. I called Octavia immediately. She arrived within an hour, examined the camera with gloved hands. This is high-end surveillance equipment, probably placed by Serafina before her arrest. She had access to the building. It's been streaming to a cloud account. Can you trace it? Already doing it. Her fingers flew across her tablet. Got it. The account belongs to Interest. It's registered to an LLC called Cascade Investments. Want to guess who owns it? Serafina and Ambrose Sterling. The name meant nothing to me. Who's that? Real estate investor. Very wealthy, very connected. I think we just found Serafina's partner in all this. She pulled up a photo on her tablet. Man in his 60s, silver hair, expensive suit, standing in front of a high-rise development. This was never just about Percy's debts. Octavia continued. Serafina was working with Sterling. They were going to force you out, take the penthouse, flip it for a fast profit. Percy was just the tool they used. Can we prove Sterling was involved? The camera is registered to his LLC. That's conspiracy at minimum. I'll get this to the prosecutors today. By evening, Ambrose Sterling had been arrested at his Mercer Island estate. The news ran it as breaking. Prominent developer arrested in elder fraud scheme. The web kept expanding. Every thread I pulled revealed more corruption, more criminals, more people who had seen an elderly widower as easy prey. June 3rd, Serafina's trial began. I sat in the courtroom gallery, watching her attorney try to spin a narrative of innocent mistakes and misunderstandings. The prosecutor eviscerated that narrative with methodical precision. The fraudulent credit cards, the surveillance camera, the fake passport, the partnership with Sterling, every piece of evidence documented, time-stamped, cross-referenced. On day 3, I testified. The prosecutor walked me through the Christmas Eve dinner, the copied keys, the identity theft, the attempted takeover of my home. Miss Beaumont, in your professional opinion, as a retired patent attorney, was this a misunderstanding? No, this was a calculated, premeditated scheme to steal my property and neutralize me as an obstacle. They identified my vulnerabilities, my age, my widower status, my emotional connection to my son, and exploited them systematically. Serafina's attorney cross-examined me, trying to paint me as vindictive, unforgiving, someone who'd weaponized the legal system against family. Miss Beaumont, isn't it true you could have resolved this privately, within the family? They didn't want resolution. They wanted capitulation. I refused to be a victim, even if it meant sending your own son to prison. My son sent himself to prison. I just documented his crimes. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts: identity theft, fraud, conspiracy, bail violation. Sentencing was set for August. July brought the most unexpected development of all. Percy's attorney called. Mr. Beaumont, my client would like to meet with you. No lawyers, no recordings, just father and son. Why? He's accepted the plea deal. 12 years in federal prison, eligible for parole after 8. He wants to apologize in person before sentencing. I hesitate. Part of me wanted to refuse to let Percy face his consequences without the absolution of a final conversation. But Miriam's voice echoed in my memory. Give people the chance to do the right thing, Thad, not because they deserve it, but because you do, I'll meet him. The FDC SeaTac visiting room was institutional gray metal tables bolted to the floor, guards watching from corners. Percy entered in an orange jumpsuit, wrists shackled, looking 10 years older than his 39 years. We sat across from each other, separated by a table and an unbridgeable gulf of betrayal. Dad, Percy, silence stretched between us. Finally Percy spoke, his voice quiet, raw. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to listen. But I needed to say this face to face, not in a letter, not through lawyers. What I did was unforgivable. I tried to steal your home. I betrayed Mom's memory. I destroyed everything you worked for. He looked down at his shackled hands. Sarah used me, but I let her. I was weak, desperate, stupid, all of it. And I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't undo what you did. I know. He met my eyes. I've been going to therapy here. Court mandated at first, but now I go voluntarily. My therapist says I spent my whole life trying to live up to expectations I created in my own head. You and Mom never pushed me to be some business success. That was my own insecurity. You always were hard on yourself. Yeah, and when I failed I couldn't face it. So I kept lying, kept pretending, kept making bigger and bigger mistakes, until, he gestured at the room, until this. I sat with that, watching my son in prison orange, seeing echoes of the boy who'd climbed into my lap with picture books, who'd cried when his goldfish died, who'd hugged me so tight at his high school graduation I could barely breathe. 12 years probably 8 with good behavior. I'll be 47 when I get out. He paused. I know your will cuts me out. I know I'm not getting anything. That's fair. That's right. Barnaby told you about the condition. 5 years of continued therapy after release. Financial rehabilitation. Written apology acknowledging everything I did. Percy nodded. I'll do it. Not for the inheritance, because I need to. Because I want to be someone Mom wouldn't be ashamed of. Something shifted in my chest. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But something softer than the rage I'd carried since Christmas Eve. When you get out, I said slowly, if you've done the work, if you've really changed, we'll talk. No promises beyond that. Percy's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. It is. Don't waste it. The guard signaled our time was up. Percy stood, shackles rattling. Dad, I really am sorry. About everything. I know. After he was led away, I sat alone in the visiting room for several minutes. Miriam's face came to me clearly. Her smile, her laugh. The way she'd touch my hand when I was stressed about a case. You did the right thing, Thad. I could almost hear her say. You protected what we built, but you didn't close the door completely. That's the balance. I drove home through summer traffic, the city bright and busy around me. For the first time since Christmas Eve, the tightness in my chest eased slightly. August 15th, Serafina's sentencing. Ajochoa reviewed the prison's report with clinical precision. Michos, you orchestrated a complex fraud scheme targeting vulnerable seniors. Mr. Beaumont was not your first victim. Investigators found evidence of similar schemes in 3 other states. You showed no remorse, violated your bail, attempted to flee. You are a predator. Serafina stood motionless, her expensive attorney beside her. I sentence you to 8 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. You will pay full restitution to all victims, including $47,000 to Mr. Beaumont. You are prohibited from any contact with Mr. Beaumont or his family for the duration of your natural life. 8 years, Serafina would be 43 when released, her influencer career dead, her reputation destroyed, her carefully constructed image shattered. As they led her away, she looked back once. Her eyes met mine across the courtroom. I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no pity, just closure. September brought cooler weather, leaves beginning to turn. I stood on my rooftop terrace, watching the sunset paint the Olympics gold and purple, The penthouse was still mine, every lock secure, every camera recording, every document in order. But it felt different now. Less like a fortress, more like a home again. I'd started playing Miriam's piano in the evenings, rusty fingers struggling through the Chopin she'd loved. It wasn't perfect, but it filled the silence with something other than emptiness. Elspeth, from 21B, knocked on my door one Saturday afternoon. "Thaddeus, a few of us are having dinner tonight. Nothing fancy, just neighbors. Would you like to join us?" I almost declined, then thought better of it. "I'd like that. Thank you." Dinner was in Elspeth's apartment, a couple from the 14th floor, a young tech worker from the 19th. We talked about the building, the city, normal things. No one mentioned the trial, the arrests, the news coverage. It felt good, normal, human. As I walked back to my penthouse that evening, I realized something. For 6 months I'd been at war, fighting, defending, attacking, necessary but exhausting. Now the war was over. I'd won, but victory had come at a cost. My relationship with my son, shattered. My faith in family, damaged. My ability to trust, tested. I pulled out my phone and composed a text to Percy's attorney. "Please inform Percy that I've established a prison education fund in his name. If he uses it for courses, therapy or rehabilitation programs, I'll continue funding it. No strings attached." The response came an hour later, forwarded from Percy. "Thank you, Dad. I won't waste this chance. I promise." I set down the phone and walked to Miriam's piano. My fingers found the keys, began the opening measures of her favorite Chopin nocturne. The notes weren't perfect. I missed several fumbled transitions, had to start over twice, but it was honest, and it was mine. Outside the windows, Seattle sparkled in the gathering darkness. My city, my home, my life, protected, defended, and finally, after 8 months of battle at peace. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.